At ReadTech, we work with medical device labelers on UDI compliance, and we receive a lot of questions about how the FDA plans to enforce the requirements of the UDI Final Rule. While the FDA hasn't yet laid out its full enforcement policy in this area, there are some clear indications of how it might go about policing UDI compliance. I'll be sharing with you 4 important things that industry members should know about what the FDA has said so far and how the agency has acted to enforce similar mandates in the past. Number 1, the FDA cares about UDI. It's crucial to understand that UDI is an important initiative to the FDA. In the UDI Final Rule, on its website and through its spokespeople, the agency has continually stressed that it views the UDI initiative as crucial to improving the safety of medical devices for patients. This makes sense, since patient safety lies at the very heart of the FDA's mission of advancing public health by providing regulatory oversight and increasing access to device product information. The FDA has invested a huge number of resources in the UDI initiative, beginning long before the release of the final rule in 2013 and continuing through the present. Developing the UDI standards, industry guidance, tools, and underlying technological support has been a very significant commitment of resources on the agency's part. It only makes sense that the agency will enforce the requirements it has worked so hard to develop, implement, and support. It's also worth noting that the FDA is acting on a mandate from the U.S. Congress to implement a UDI system as part of FDASIA, an act passed by the legislature in 2012. So FDA is required by law to continue implementing UDI based on the authority of Congress. Number 2, FDA is checking for UDI compliance. Not only is FDA acting on a mandate from Congress to implement a UDI system for medical devices on the market in the U.S., but FDA is also required by Congress to conduct inspections of Class 3 and 2 device manufacturers every 2 years. This means that for many companies facing the UDI mandate, an inspection by the FDA is an eventuality, not a possibility. Device companies should expect FDA inspectors to be checking for UDI compliance during these visits. We also know that FDA has cited noncompliance with UDI requirements in a warning letter as early as July 2015, so labelers shouldn't assume that failure to comply won't have serious consequences. Number 3, UDI is now a basic requirement for marketing in the U.S. Once a product falls under the labeling and data submission requirements of UDI, these standards become part of the basic prerequisites for marketing a device in the United States. The agency has emphasized on many occasions that failure to comply with UDI requirements may constitute misbranding of the product, and that, quote, potential enforcement actions for violations of UDI requirements include seizure, injunction, and civil and criminal penalties. Number 4, let's take a look at previous FDA enforcement tactics. While the FDA hasn't detailed its specific enforcement tactics for UDI just yet, it's worth taking a look at how the agency has policed compliance with other mandates. At ReadTech, we've been working with manufacturers and labelers of drug products on electronic drug listing submissions since 2005. During that time, we've heard from many companies who faced FDA enforcement actions due to a failure to properly label and perform electronic data submissions for their products. Often in these situations, non-compliance with electronic drug listing requirements has come to the FDA's attention during import to the U.S. As the product passes through customs, FDA inspectors check to make sure that the importer has met its obligations in order to market its product in the United States. We've heard from companies who need help meeting these requirements because their product has been impounded and the FDA will not release it until all obligations have been met. Even though this is fairly mild in comparison to a warning letter or a fine from the agency, the cost to an importer, as well as to its customers, can be very significant. Although we can't speak for the FDA, it's worth noting that ReadTech has observed the agency is often more lenient towards companies who demonstrate a good faith effort to comply with all agency requirements as quickly as possible. So our advice for those who are currently out of compliance with UDI requirements for their products is to make efforts to become compliant as soon as possible. If you're experiencing difficulty meeting UDI requirements by the deadline, or your products fall under a compliance date that has already passed, we urge you not to become a cautionary tale for other device labelers. Contact the experts at ReadTech. We've assisted more than 190 medical device labelers of all sizes in meeting UDI requirements and submitted 25% of all published good ID records as of May 1st, 2016. Since 2005, we've been helping life sciences companies understand and meet FDA requirements for electronic data submission. We'll be glad to share what we've learned with you.